There was a half-eaten cupcake on the hallway floor. Vanilla, her favorite, and a single heel resting next to it like Cinderella just gave up halfway through the fairy tale. The lights were still on in the living room. Music was playing from the Bluetooth speaker she swore we lost in the move. Lana Del Rey. Of course. I stood there, holding the suitcase I packed 7 hours earlier, not because I had a plan, but because it gave my hands something to do while she was wherever she was. She left a voice memo at 6:47 p.m. going to Cade's. Don't wait up. Might crash there. You'd hate it anyway. Everyone's wild. That was it. No apology. No lie. Just facts, served cold and arrogant. The worst part? She was right. I would have hated it. I do hate it. Not the party. Not Cade. I hate this version of her. This version that doesn't flinch when she says she's sleeping over at the guy who once broke her heart so hard she couldn't eat for days. She used to cry in my arms about him. Now she's borrowing his pillows. I didn't even sit down. I just walked in, placed the house key on the countertop like a waitress quitting mid-shift, and opened the hallway closet. It was still full of her things. Old jackets that smelled like bonfires and expensive perfume. A shoebox labeled "Don't Touch" that I touched 3 years ago and regretted instantly. The photo strip from that cursed photo booth in Santa Monica. The one where she kissed my cheek in the 3rd frame and looked bored by the 4th. Everything about that closet felt louder than my voice had ever been in this marriage. I didn't take anything. I just wrote one sentence on a napkin and slid it into her jewelry drawer. One sentence. The same words she said the night we argued about boundaries. You'll do what you want anyway. I closed the door behind me and didn't look back. Not even when I heard her car pull into the driveway at 3:12 a.m. Not even when she screamed my name like she was the one left behind. The first message came at 3:26 a.m. Where are you? I didn't answer. Then another. Why are your shoes gone? Still nothing. And then came the third. What the hell, Everett? There it was. My name. All caps. Panic in the form of pixels. I sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour laundromat, watching the fluorescent lights flicker like they couldn't decide whether to die or stay alive. It felt poetic. Or pathetic. I couldn't tell which. I hadn't checked into a hotel. I hadn't gone to a friend's. Truth is, I didn't have a destination. Just escape. I didn't even cry. I think that's the part that scared me the most. How numb I felt. How empty. I wasn't plotting revenge. I wasn't even trying to hurt her. I just wanted her to feel, even for 5 minutes, what I'd been swallowing for 5 years. Jamie always had a talent for flipping the script. She'd call it a joke, or say I was too sensitive. Once, when she told a story about me wetting myself on a roller coaster to a group of strangers at a dinner party, she said I needed to lighten up. She always found new ways to test how much shame I could swallow without choking. But this wasn't shame. This was something worse. Silence. She kept calling. I kept watching the spinning dryers. The phone buzzed again at 4:03 a.m. You left? You just left? Then, you're overreacting. We didn't even do anything. I just needed a break. I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny. Because she'd just admitted it. We. Not he, not me. We. My mind spiraled. I imagined her walking through the house, still wearing that party tiara, stomping through the hallway, ripping the napkin out of the drawer, reading those 7 quiet words, and realizing that for once, I wasn't going to beg her to stay. She always counted on my silence being safety. But that silence had evolved. It had turned into absence. And that scared her more than anything I could have said. At 4:27 a.m., she left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it right away. I just stared at the laundromat clock ticking toward 5. And I swear, in that moment, I felt more alive among those humming machines than I had in my own home in years. She was realizing something now. Not just that I'd left, but that I might not come back. I didn't plan to listen to the voicemail. But at 5:12 a.m., something in me cracked. Maybe it was the way the sky started bleeding pink through the laundromat windows, or maybe it was because I hadn't slept, eaten, or spoken in nearly 10 hours. Whatever it was, I unlocked my phone, put in my earbuds, and pressed play. Her voice came through immediately. Shaky. Fast. Like she was afraid of what silence might reveal. Hey. Okay. I just got your note. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. I didn't do anything wrong. You're blowing this way out of proportion, Everett. I closed my eyes and leaned back against the cold plastic chair, letting her words drip into my ears like oil. I needed a break. That's all. I needed to feel something, because you've been blank lately. I don't know how else to say it. You're always just there. And Cade, he's not what you think. He's just someone who reminds me of, I don't know, who I used to be. That was rich. Used to be. As if I had robbed her of her wildness, of her fire. As if my only sin was being predictable. Then I heard it. Faint, but unmistakable. A laugh. A male laugh. In the background of her message. Short. Deep. Not recorded. Live. She didn't even have the decency to step outside before calling me. She was in his house. With him. While leaving me a monologue about how nothing happened. I paused the voicemail, not because I couldn't finish it, but because I suddenly didn't care to. The rest of it would be noise. Rehearsed lines. Gaslight-soaked guilt. And I'd spent too long confusing proximity for love, forgiveness for self-respect. That laugh, it was the moment the wires finally disconnected. It wasn't rage that filled me. It wasn't heartbreak either. It was clarity. I stood up, tossed my half-drunk coffee in the trash, and walked outside. The early sun hit my face like a slap. For the first time in years, I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel small. She wanted me to hurt. She wanted me to feel humiliated, to question what I'd done wrong. And for a while, it worked. But now I wanted her to watch what I did next. Because I wasn't going to beg. I was going to disappear and let the silence scream in my place. By 7:30 a.m., the calls stopped. No more voicemails. No more texts. Just a dry digital void where her panic used to live. It didn't feel like peace. Not exactly. It felt like the moment after a car crash, when everything's eerily still and you're waiting to find out if you're bleeding. I parked the car 2 blocks from the house. Not to spy. I didn't care what she was doing anymore. I just needed to get one thing. Something she never knew I cared about. Something she probably hadn't thought about in years. It was hidden behind the insulation panel in the garage. A small, sealed envelope wrapped in plastic, wedged above the rafters. I put it there the first year we moved in. Back when I still believed in the magic of backup plans. Inside the envelope were 4 things. A notarized copy of our prenup, a flash drive, the deed to a tiny cabin I bought before I met her, and a list of names. Not people I knew, but usernames. Handles. Burner emails. The ones she didn't know I had access to. The ones she used to flirt, test waters, and plant her little digital escape hatches. I never confronted her. Never asked. I just watched. For years. She thought I was boring, passive, soft. What she didn't know is that I was collecting. By the time she figured out what was happening, I'd be gone. Not just from the house. From the mortgage. From the taxes. From the utilities. From her life. You see, Jamie always played short-term games. Passive jabs. Sleepovers at her exes. Comments about how other husbands actually take care of themselves. But she never saw the long game. I did. And I'd been preparing for it longer than I'd been pretending to be okay. I crept into the garage, silent as a ghost. She was probably still upstairs, maybe asleep, maybe pacing. Maybe going through her old messages looking for proof that she didn't technically cheat. That's the thing about women like Jamie. It's not betrayal until someone else says it out loud. I grabbed the envelope, closed the panel, and walked out without a sound. Then I did something I knew would push her into full meltdown. I left her car keys in the mailbox. Not mine. Hers. With a note inside that said, "You'll need these more than I do. Tell Kate I said hi." By the time she found it, I'd be gone. And the panic? It would only just be starting. It took her less than 4 hours to break. By noon, my phone had 20 missed calls, 7 texts, 2 voicemails I still hadn't listened to. I turned off notifications and tossed the phone into the glove compartment. Let her scream into the void for once. I sat parked outside the storage unit I'd been secretly paying for in cash, under a different name. It was nothing special. Just a concrete cube behind a gas station, but inside were the things that still felt like mine. Books she said were boring. My old laptop. The guitar I used to write songs on before she told me it made me look sad. And the most important thing, my backup drive. Every account, every password, every saved file. Jamie thought she had leverage. She thought the house, the friends, even the cats were hers to keep. But she forgot something critical. I was the one who set up her business. I was the one who filed the LLC, managed her branding, built her website from scratch. All those influencer contracts, all those affiliate deals. Guess who handled the tax IDs? She wore the crown, sure. But I built the throne. and now I was yanking the legs out from under it. By 2 p.m., I received the first real message. No emojis. No exclamation points. Just, can we talk? That's how you know someone's scared, when their language goes flat. I didn't answer, but I imagined her pacing the house, flipping through drawers, calling our bank, wondering why the account was suddenly missing her name. I transferred my portion out. Legally. Carefully. She still had hers, untouched. I wasn't out to destroy her. I just wanted her to understand the shape of the silence I'd been living in. And silence has teeth. At 3:40 p.m., she sent one last message. What do you want from me? That one made me pause. Because the truth was, I didn't know anymore. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her to cry, or beg, or make some grand gesture in the rain. I wanted freedom. Not from her. From the version of me I became to survive her. I turned the key in the ignition and pulled out of the lot. Somewhere behind me, a woman was unraveling. Not because she was abandoned, but because for the first time, she didn't get to control the ending. And for the first time, I didn't need to watch her fall apart. The first knock came at midnight. Not a bang. Not desperate. Just a quiet, measured knock on the door of the rental cabin I hadn't used in years. She'd found me. Not through tracking apps or mutual friends. I cut those lines days ago. But Jamie was nothing if not persistent. My guess? She used the emergency login I gave her years ago when I thought she might need it someday. Turns out I did. I didn't open the door. I just sat on the floor, staring at the faint shadow of her silhouette through the frosted window pane. She stood still for a long time, arms crossed, not moving. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She was calculating, trying to decide which version of herself to weaponize first. Eventually, her voice came, muffled by the door, but sharp enough to cut through the silence. I didn't sleep with him. Not I'm sorry. Not can we talk. Just that. I didn't answer. I could have, she added. You know that, right? Still, I said nothing. I wasn't giving her a script to respond to. You think you're punishing me? Her tone shifted, mocking, cold. You're the one hiding out in a shack like some washed-up horror movie character. Is this what makes you feel powerful? A few beats of silence. Then, softer. I came back that night to talk to you. You weren't there. You just disappeared. No note. No goodbye. You left me with him. That last word cracked slightly. Interesting. She hadn't come to fix things. She'd come to win. And the thing about Jamie? She didn't know how to play a game she couldn't cheat at. I can burn it all down too, she said through the door. You forget. I have your emails. I know where your retirement account is. You think I can't nuke everything just because you beat me to the punch? I stood up. Not because I was angry. Because I was done listening. As I reached for the door handle, she added something that made my blood slow. If you don't open this door, I'll tell everyone. I'll tell your parents. Your boss. Your weird little friends from that forum. I'll make you the villain. You think anyone's gonna believe the silent husband? You think you get to vanish and still look like the good guy? I opened the door. And she looked small. Not physically. Jamie was still Jamie. Beautiful, composed, eyes sharp like glass. But there was something in her posture, in the twitch of her jaw, in the way she refused to meet my eyes. I didn't say a word. I just handed her something. A small envelope. The one with her name on it. Inside. Everything. Screenshots. Contracts. Bank transfers. Her DMs. Her late-night texts to numbers with no saved names. The receipts from the hotel she said she'd never go back to again. Her hand trembled as she took it. She hadn't expected that. She thought she was holding the matches. But I had the gasoline all along. And as I shut the door in her stunned, quiet face, I realized something terrifying. She still wasn't done. Because Jamie never breaks all at once. She fractures. Slowly. Silently. And then she explodes. 3 days passed. No knocks. No calls. No late-night voicemails. It was quiet. Suspiciously quiet. I'd been staying off-grid in the cabin. No Wi-Fi. Burner phone. I didn't check email. Didn't look at news. Didn't talk to anyone but the old man at the gas station who sold me instant coffee and a rusted can of beans. I should have known the silence wasn't surrender. Jamie doesn't retreat. She regroups. On the 4th morning, a box appeared at the cabin steps. No return address. No postage stamp. Just a plain white box wrapped in twine, with my name written in her handwriting. Loopy, confident, perfectly curved like she was proud of every letter. I stared at it for a while, half expecting it to tick. Inside was a stack of old photographs. Real prints. Glossy, untouched by filters or time. Me and Jamie in Paris. Me playing guitar on the beach. Us painting the guest room. Her asleep on my chest during that one road trip when she pretended she wasn't carsick the whole time. They weren't just memories. They were strategically selected. Moments that made me look happy. Moments that proved we were okay. But it wasn't the photos that unsettled me. It was what was underneath them. A folded piece of paper. One sentence, handwritten. This is who we were. And I still have the version of you that matters. I didn't know what that meant. At least not immediately. Until I pulled out my old laptop that I hadn't touched in years and saw it. She had logged in. Somehow. Maybe she found the password scrawled in one of my old journals. Maybe I left a backup open. Or maybe she was just better at this than I ever realized. But she hadn't stolen anything. She hadn't deleted files. She had edited them. Dozens of documents. Screenshots. Dates. Messages. Rewritten in subtle ways. A conversation with my coworker that suddenly looked flirtatious. An old therapy journal entry twisted just enough to sound unhinged. A saved draft of an angry email I'd never sent, now turned into a sent version in the folder with her name on it. She was building a version of me that didn't exist. And I knew exactly why. Because if I ever tried to go public with the truth, if I ever tried to explain what really happened, she had a backup narrative. A digital paper trail where she was the victim. And I was just the unstable husband who snapped. Suddenly, I understood the game wasn't about the marriage anymore. It was about the story we'd tell the world. And Jamie? She was writing hers in advance. I stared at the photos again, now warped under the morning sun. And I realized something awful. This wasn't the ending. This was the part where the villain smiles at the camera and says, "Now it's your move." I didn't react. Not immediately. Jamie wanted a response. Wanted panic. Wanted me to spiral and call her, beg her to undo whatever digital fire she had started. She was baiting me with fear, and for a moment, I almost bit. But then I realized something that stopped me cold. She was still playing the same game. The game where she pokes, twists, controls. Where she holds my identity hostage, and I keep trying to prove I'm the man I used to be. The man she could love. The man worth believing. But I didn't want to be that man anymore. I wanted to be the version of me that didn't need anyone's permission to exist. So I packed the box of photos, walked outside, and set it ablaze in a rusted fire drum behind the cabin. No drama. No speeches. Just ash, curling quietly into the sky like smoke from a finished war. Then I did the real work. I reached out to a lawyer. A good one. One who knew how to document digital forgery. One who smiled when I said the words gaslighting and evidence manipulation and replied, "I've seen worse." I opened a new bank account under a fresh LLC. I bought a cheap used car in a different state. I filed paperwork to formally separate. I filed another to protect my name. Then I called my parents. Told them everything. Not the dramatic, soap opera version. The real version. The quiet kind. The kind where shame sits in your throat while you try to say, "She broke me, and I let her." They didn't say much. Just asked if I was safe. That was enough. Weeks passed. She tried a few more things. A cryptic email. A snide voicemail. A photo sent accidentally of her and Kate in front of a beach I once told her I wanted to see before I died. I didn't reply. And slowly, she stopped trying. Because silence, true, steady silence, is louder than rage when someone can't control it. It's been 6 months now. The cabin's still mine. The cats live with me. I still don't play guitar, but I've started writing again. Not songs. Letters. Pages and pages I'll never send, just to remind myself I still have a voice. Sometimes I wonder if she ever tells her side of the story. I'm sure I'm the villain in it. The ghost. The coward. The boring husband who ran away from a perfectly good marriage. But that's okay, because I'm finally somewhere she can't reach. And for the first time in years, I'm not scared of being alone. I'm grateful for it.